Coming up on Mountain News this morning, search efforts are underway after a plane with 60 passengers collided with a military aircraft above Washington, D.C. And some local bourbon distilleries are bunkering down ahead of next month's tariffs as some still prepare for international business.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. My name's Amelia Lee. On this Thursday, January 30th, it is 6:30 on the dot right now. It's also time to check on in with meteorologist Megan Dusmal. And Megan, we have been talking about this upcoming rain that's in the forecast for today, I believe, and into the future. We've got some warmer temps. So what can folks expect? Is it shorts and t-shirt weather, or are we still on that cautious, let's wear a jacket weather?
I wish I could say that it was t-shirt and shorts weather, but it is jacket weather. Specifically a rain jacket. Now for this morning, maybe you might need a coat if you're like me. It's a little bit on the cooler side for me. We are in the 30s and 20s right now, 28 in Hazard, 24 in Manchester. Now we're looking at the coldest temperatures as you're inching closer to Middlesboro and Irvin at 23 degrees. Now we will warm up though, so not t-shirt and shorts just quite yet, but we're in the mid to upper 50s, seeing the low 50s as you're traveling towards Wise, 53 degrees, and Moorhead right at 50 degrees. Now we are also looking at those rain chances, which are slowly but surely making their way over to eastern Kentucky. You can start to see it move into the state right now, though. So it's not too far off as we're heading through the next couple of hours. Speaking of the next couple hours, here's that breakdown for the next 12. We're starting to see the rain pick up as you're heading to the noon hour and continuing overnight. Now we'll have those high temperatures around 3 o'clock. Amelia.
All right, Megan, thank you. Officials say an unknown number of people are dead after a passenger plane and an Army helicopter collided midair last night. A frantic and massive search and rescue is underway at the crash site near Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C. Officials say first responders are searching for survivors in the near-freezing Potomac River. Michael Yoshida reports they are racing against the clock and hypothermia.
I saw the plane banking at an angle that a plane shouldn't bank, and I saw sparks flying.
A passenger plane carrying 64 people collided with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter midair over Washington late Wednesday night. American Airlines says PSA operated Flight 5342 from Wichita, Kansas, was trying to land at Reagan National Airport when the collision occurred. The airline says it had 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board when it went down in the Potomac River.
We are actively working with local, state, and federal authorities on emergency response efforts, and the American Airlines care team has been activated to assist our passengers and their families.
According to officials, the helicopter was on a training flight from Virginia. The National Weather Service says the river's nighttime temperature is likely about 35 degrees, and people can only survive in water that frigid for about 90 minutes.
The challenges are access. The water that we're operating in is about 8 feet deep. There is wind, there is pieces of ice out there, so it's just dangerous and hard to work in.
About 300 first responders are combing the Potomac for survivors.
I'm just praying that somebody's pulling her out of the river right now. She texted me that they were landing in 20 minutes. The rest of my text did not get delivered.
In Washington, I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
According to officials on the ground, all air traffic in and out of Washington, D.C. Reagan National Airport has been halted until 11 this morning. A conference room has been set up at the airport for family members to gather. Stephen Xingsheng, the man who pleaded guilty to the murder of a Kentucky police officer, was sentenced to life without parole. The incident happened back in May of 2023 when Scott County Deputy Caleb Conley was gunned down during a traffic stop on I-75. After he shot Conley, Xingsheng later ended up going to a bar, shooting another man, and then taking his car. At a change of plea hearing yesterday afternoon, Xingsheng also pleaded guilty to assault, robbery, and burglary. A Southwest Virginia woman was sentenced for distributing meth. The Lee County Commonwealth's attorney says Linda Hatfield of Jonesville was sentenced to 10 years in the Virginia penitentiary. Following Hatfield's time behind bars, she will be under supervised probation for at least 5 years. Two people from Hazard are charged with endangering the welfare of a minor. The incident happened last weekend when police were dispatched to a restaurant parking lot in Pikeville. When police approached the vehicle, they smelled marijuana inside. They discovered Robert McDonald had bloodshot eyes. Sandra Davis told police she was smoking marijuana in the back with two children inside. McDonald and Davis were arrested but were released the next day. In Knox County, a man is in jail after police found drugs and paraphernalia with him. Police say they received a report about a suspicious vehicle parked on Gregory Branch Road in Artemis. When police made contact with the suspect, he refused to identify himself. Police later found a syringe and tablets in the vehicle. The suspect was later identified as Tip Miller, and Miller was also wanted by police in Sevier County, Tennessee. We now know the name of the person who was killed in an officer-involved shooting in Rowan County. Thomas Crouch Jr. of Clearfield was the person who was killed. Police were dispatched to a domestic violence call yesterday morning at a home on Buffalo Ranch. When they arrived, an officer fired his weapon, striking Crouch. He died after he was taken to St. Clair Regional Hospital. President Donald Trump says tariffs on goods from Mexico and China and Canada will start soon. The president is pledging 25% tariffs on February 1st. We could see retaliatory tariffs like we did in his first term. It's potentially hurting business for some local Kentucky distilleries looking to branch out internationally.
The demand over there is just as high as it is here. I mean, they're just as interested as all the things we're up to, and they're excited about good bourbon and good whiskey.
President Trump is also hinting at hitting China and the European Union with tariffs. He's asking federal agencies to review and assess all trade policies and practices by April 1st. President Trump hinted this week the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, should be dismantled. Some in emergency management in Kentucky tell us they've had bad experiences with FEMA. Others say while changes within the organization are needed, there still needs to be a federal agency that will have boots on the ground after a disaster.
We was repeating the same thing for a month over and over again of taking new FEMA representatives out, showing them the disaster area, and so it was just, you know, we wasn't getting anything accomplished that first month.
It's great to say, oh, we're going to give the money to the state and let them do it, but I don't know that it really makes sense for every single state to have that kind of, enough capacity to assist every natural disaster that might happen. I mean,
Scott McReynolds with the Housing Development Alliance says he believes the maximum amount of federal assistance does need to be increased. An Eastern Kentucky lawmaker filed a bill that would allow teachers and administrators to post and teach about the 10 Commandments in public schools. Under House Bill 116, school boards can give teachers permission to read or post the 10 Commandments at anything school-related. Representative Richard White of Moorhead says unlike other states, schools in Kentucky would not be required to display the 10 Commandments with this bill.
Get the basics of what our country was founded upon and the laws and this structures, I think, a good part of their education.
Supporters of this bill say the commandments are historical, while critics say religious material should stay out of public schools. One Kentucky lawmaker has filed a bill to invest in vaping prevention. Representative Robert Duvall filed House Bill 187. The measure would establish the Vaping Settlement Trust Fund to administer funds transferred to the Commonwealth due to litigation with Juul Labs, Inc. In a statement, Representative Duvall says, quote, vaping is dangerous and has become an epidemic for our youth. We must invest in prevention and cessation programs for our youth and protect the investment through state law. In 2021, the CDC estimated that 45% of Kentucky high schoolers use electronic vapor products, which is higher than the national estimate of 36%. Folks gathered at the Perry County Public Library yesterday to discuss opioid abatement funding. Jamie Mullins-Smith helped organize the event. She says officials with all 8 counties in the Kentucky River District were invited to discuss the use of funds. She says she wants to make sure the funding stays local while building strong foundations to make a difference in Eastern Kentucky, especially areas impacted by the opioid crisis.
When we're talking about our 15-year plan, we have a real plan, we have it on paper, we know what we need to get there, and it's just not another large chunk of money that is gone and we don't have a great foundation to build on.
Mullen-Smith says she hopes these conversations will continue into the future. She says the goal yesterday was to build a network of people so conversations about the funding can continue with new opinions.
Now, it's not going to be as warm as you head out the door today as it was yesterday. We're looking significantly colder in some portions of the region, especially as you're heading towards Monticello. 20 degrees colder right now than it was this time yesterday. Now, we will continue to see those temperatures increase as we head into the afternoon, but we're also looking at some rain chances in the forecast, which will make those temperatures not feel as warm as they did yesterday with those sunny skies. Let's talk about the actual current temperatures, though. We are in the upper 20s. And some places seeing the mid-30s as you travel towards Pikeville and Prestonsburg, and Jackson is in the upper 30s. Now, forecast highs for today, I did mention they'll be on the warmer side. We're looking mid to upper 50s for most of the area. Now, as we talk about the bus stop, if you're heading out the door this morning, here's what you can expect. Right now, 28 degrees, 34 by the time you're heading to school with those clouds. Cloudy skies will continue as you're heading to lunch, and by the time you're heading home, most places will be seeing that rain, and we're looking at 55 degrees as that temperature. Amelia.
Thanks for joining us on Mountain News this morning at 6:41. Still to come. The stars are lining up. Well, almost. This time the solar system is lining up for a planetary parade.